Hi, welcome back to English 111 Online. There are two assignments for this week, so let's take a look at them really quickly. One is to take this quiz that is based on information from this week and a PowerPoint that I'm going to ask you to view about how to write an essay, about thesis statements and that sort of thing. And it will also cover the PowerPoint that we had last week about academic tone. And so it's going to be fairly easy to do. It is down here under the gold bar where our graded assignments are. Audience purpose, tone, and essay essentials quiz. And it is not timed, so you have all the time that you need to take it, and you can refer back to those two PowerPoint presentations as you are answering the questions. So that's one thing to do. The other thing is we're going to start Core Project 2, the rhetorical analysis, this week. So let's just look at the guideline up here. View my video, which you're doing. Read pages 9 through 16 and 17 through 29 in the Little Seagull Handbook for understanding the writing process and development of paragraphs, although a lot of that information is covered in the PowerPoint presentation about writing an essay, which is the next thing on the list to do. So if you don't have your Little Seagull Handbook, you do need to go ahead and get it, but it's not essential that you have it this week. Read the Core Project 2 Rhetorical Analysis Essay document, and I'm going to read that with you, and then view the label beneath that document, and I'm going to go over that with you. And then I want you to read this is something from your textbook, Rereading America, is When Should a Child Be Taken from His Parents? If you do not have the textbook Rereading America yet, I have provided a link to that essay. In fact, I kind of would like for you to read the essay from the link that I've provided, because that will give you, I have made some comments on there with some questions that might help you as you're reading it. And we'll take a look at that together in just a minute too. So 2 graded assignments, take the quiz, and then there's going to be a journal for you to complete based on the rhetorical analysis essay. So we're not doing the rhetorical analysis essay this week. We're just getting started. In the writing process, we know that the first thing you have to do is come up with some ideas, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to come up with some ideas for what we're going to write about by reading this essay and asking ourselves some vital questions about the rhetorical analysis essay that we're going to do. So here's the document right here. If you click on that, it'll open up. It'll open up and let you see what the assignment is all about. So this core project will count 15% of your total course grade. So the one core project 1, real world writing, that we did last time will count 5%. This one counts 15%. And then the next 2 core projects 3 and 4 will each count 20% apiece, and that's 60% of your grade coming from these writings. Okay, so the writing has the assignment has a snapshot at the top that tells you what you need to see if I can make that a little bigger for just a minute so we can see it better. And will my computer cooperate with me? Maybe not. Anyway, so you can see the mode this time is not a business letter, which is what we did for Core Project 1, but an essay. So we're going to write this in essay format when we get to that. The research requirements, your primary source is the essay, When Should a Child Be Taken from His Parents? The primary source is the actual document that an author has done. I don't know. Y'all excuse my screen jumping all around here. But a primary, that's the difference in a primary source. A secondary source would be reading what somebody else has written about a primary source or about a topic. And so your primary source of this is going to require a little bit of research. That's why it says research requirement. And in order to write about it, of course, we got to read it. Format style, it will be MLA format. We'll talk about that a little bit more next week. And it must include a works cited page. The length will be 2+ pages, and so 2 full pages, and then extend a little bit over onto the 3rd page, and then you'll have a 4th page, which will be your works cited page. Now, as I said, I'm going to talk more about MLA format for documents, how to set it up in Google and all of that next week as you're working on creating your rough draft of this essay. So the due dates for the course calendar would be you're going to have to do a required SMART thinking feedback, and I'm going to show you how to do that next week as well. And then you're going to turn in your feedback from SMART thinking as a journal entry, and that will be next week. So, but this week we're just going to read. All right, here's your task. A rhetorical analysis is a close examination of how an author uses word choice, form, supporting evidence, rhetorical techniques to achieve a tone and a purpose. Now, we already talked about tone when we talked about using academic tone, but also authors, as they write things, will achieve some kind of a tone. Is it sarcastic? Is it humorous? Is it pretty straightforward? So some kind of tone will be achieved. And how the tone is achieved is through their choice of decisions that they make about what they do with their writing. Those choices that they make are what this essay is going to be all about. And then, of course, the purpose. So the purpose, you'll decide when we read this. The purpose is going to be to have you understand that the system that helps us decide when should a child be taken from his parents is a very complex system. And Larissa McFarquhar is the author here, she makes very specific choices in her writing to get that point across to you and create the tone that she wishes to achieve there. Additional guidelines here about topic sentences for paragraphs, making a claim with your thesis statement. And again, next week is when we're going to go over all of that and get your rough draft in shape so that you can submit it to SMART thinking. Here is what you'll be submitting, what you notice about the author's writing choices that she makes to make her point. And that will be submitted as a journal entry before midnight this week, June 7th. Your rough draft will be due to get feedback from SMART thinking before midnight on June 14th. And then you're going to share that SMART thinking feedback in a journal entry. And then, of course, you're going to apply what you learned from SMART thinking to your own essay. And then our final week with this essay, you'll be spending it doing revision and making your final draft as good as you possibly can. And that will be due before midnight on June 21st. So I'm going to ask you to just slow down just a little bit and let us go through this step by step, because you'll end up with a better product in the end. Okay, so don't write your essay yet. We're not doing that yet. All right, so what we are doing, though, is we're going to read when should a child be taken from his parents. I put this little label here for you to notice, too, defining again what rhetoric is, what a rhetorical analysis is, and what point that the author, Larissa McFarquhar, is trying to make in this essay that she writes. So rhetoric, is the study of how writers and speakers use words to influence an audience. A rhetorical analysis is an essay that breaks a work of nonfiction, just like our essay here, into parts and then explains how the parts work together to create a certain effect, whether it's to persuade, to entertain, to inform. And I believe that you'll notice as you read, and I'll leave it up to you to decide, but Larissa McFarquhar is informing us. And she is also, though, trying to persuade us to about the point that she's trying to make, which is this right here. The decision to take a child from his parents is a very complex one. So as we read, we want to keep in mind that. What is she doing? What is she making? Kind of choices in her writing is she making in order to get that point across? So if you click on that document there, and like I said, you can read it in your textbook, but I have added some additional comments onto it that you can look at here. So I'm going to click on it up here. I've already opened it. Okay, so you can see out here to the side, I have these comments that I've put. This will help you focus. So take notes as you read. Make marks on the text itself, or make notes on sticky notes and stick it on places that you want to remember. Even on your laptop, you can have sticky notes and have notes. But or you can make additional comments yourself as you read, because that's what critical reading is all about, trying to engage with the text and figure out what it means as far as the assignment that you're asked to do. So the first thing I highlighted up here is, when should a child be taken from his parents? That is the title of her essay. And you'll notice anywhere on the middle page in the name of the document, anything else up here is the name. I've used the name of the document here to name my document here. And I have used quotation marks. So that is a punctuation rule. When you mention the name of an article that's in a newspaper or a magazine, or one of the essays from our textbook, when you mention something that is a smaller part of a bigger part, so our textbook is a textbook of a textbook that is a collection of different essays. And so whenever you take something that is part of a larger part, the title of it is used in quotation marks. So when you're using it, when you're writing, always put, when should a child be taken from his parents, as the title of this, in quotation marks. Also notice the spelling of her name. It is difficult. I have to keep looking back at it every time. But please use her name correctly when you write. It's kind of insulting to a writer to not use the proper name. I try to use your proper name and spell it correctly, and yes, I make mistakes sometimes, but that gives credibility to your writing too, to know that you have used the author's name correctly. Okay, so the other thing is, this title of this essay is a rhetorical question. And I put the definition of a rhetorical question over here. A rhetorical question is a device used to persuade or subtly influence the audience. It's a question asked not for the answer. She's not really asking you to answer her here, but for the effect. Oftentimes, a rhetorical question is used to emphasize a point or just to get the audience thinking. And I believe that's why she's used it here. So this would be one of those choices that the author has made that I was talking about. This is one of the things that you might write about in your essay, is her use of rhetorical questions. Because if you look further down, But first, let me tell you, I did highlight here in that biographical information at the beginning of the essay, they tell you what her point is. It says, through the story of a single mom trying to hold on to her kids, this essay introduces us to the complexities of a system that balances the sanctity of family with the urgent need to protect some children from their own parents. That is the point that she's trying it's to make. It's not an easy answer, and it's very complex, and it's that critical balance. We need to protect the children. However, we need to preserve the sanctity of the family as well. So let's see how she gets her point across. So rhetorical question is one of the techniques she uses. When she starts here, she asks it again. Another rhetorical question. What should you do if Child Protective Services comes to your house? Again, she's not asking you to answer that. She's asking you to focus in and start to think about it. And then look what she does. She says, you will hear a knock on the door, often late at night. You don't have to open it, but if you don't, the caseworker outside may come back with the police. The caseworker will tell you you're being investigated for abusing or neglecting your children. So she starts to answer for you the question. Here is what it is like if in the middle of the night somebody comes to your house. So I've asked the question over here in the comments, who is the you in this part of the essay? And choice of point of view. This is what we call the point of view. From whom perspective is the story being told? And right here is trying to put you in second person here in the story so that you're imagining it happening directly to you. Later on down here comes another rhetorical question. When should you take a child from his parents? And then she says, you must start your investigation. So she's changed perspective here. She's not talking about you as the parent getting invaded in the middle of the night by social services. She's talking about you, the caseworker here. So another choice that she makes, a writing device that she uses, is point of view. Put you in the situation. Okay, we see what it's like to be the parent, and now we see what it's like to be the caseworker. And then further on, we get to this very long story, Mercedes. This is how Mercedes describes what happened. And she goes into third person here. It's not you anymore. It's not you, the parent. It's not you, the caseworker. This is a story about her told in third person, but from her perspective. This is what Mercedes says happens to her. And they go into this very, very long story, which would make an excellent movie of the week, rather sad movie of the week, but an excellent movie of the week here. But this long, long story. And so when we were reading about in the beginning, where I'll just go back up here again, it says, through the story of a single mom trying to hold on to her kids. This is the story that it was talking about up there in the biographical information. So now we're at Mercedes' story. So she's changed point of view again. This is the story from Mercedes' point of view. And then it goes on and tells all the stuff that happened with her child getting injured with a curling iron and what happens and everything, and just how she ends up with getting her children taken away from her. And then in this paragraph here, why do you think the author tells us about Mercedes' background? So we're not in the story of Mercedes telling what happened that got her kids removed from her. All of a sudden, we're in Mercedes grew up in Brooklyn. Her father was a drunk who beat her and her mother. Why do you think the author tells us about Mercedes' background? Um, that is something else that you might choose to write about. And then the story continues with it incorporating all of the things about ACS ordered certain things to happen, and then the judge has to make a decision about those things, and the caseworker has to testify, and all this story keeps going on with our movie of the week here. And then it goes through all of that, and then all of a sudden, we get to this part of the story right here, and I put another comment in here. She asks all these questions here. Okay, so why did she not have Leslie? When was she going to get her housing? What was going on? And those questions there are not really rhetorical questions. These are the questions inside Mercedes' mind that she wants to know the answers to. So she's calling, she's trying to get these questions answered. But right here, the author starts doing something else. The judge on Mercedes' case was Carol Sherman, who had worked in family court in various capacities for nearly 40 years. So here we have shifting point of view again and giving some background on the judge. Why do you think the author tells us about the background of the judge? Do you think maybe the judge's background gives him a certain view of what's going on in the court case and influences his decision or her decision? It's a female judge. And so those questions, and then I think this might be the last. There's another thing that's brought into it: the foster family. The foster family ends up wanting to adopt Mercedes' kids, but there's this whole paragraph about money and how New York funds foster families to take care of foster children. So I put this comment out here. Why do you think the author gives these facts? Because that's another choice that she's making to provide us with all of that background there, so that we can continue to focus on. Now, this complicates the story even further. All these things show how complicated this situation is. Okay, I'm trying to scroll down, but I'm going to have to use my finger to do it because my keyboard's not cooperating with. So anyway, then it goes on and it tells about the complexities of the judge and the ACS and Mercedes herself, what she's doing, how she's making some poor choices here, and then the foster family getting in the mix, and it's just very complicated. And then the very sad story ends. And she doesn't wrap it up with a conclusion and tell us what to think about it, but she's done a lot of things in here to make us get her point that, boy, this is really a complex situation. Yes, we want to preserve the sanctity of the family, but we have to protect these children. But it ends like this, just rather abruptly, when they're saying, she says, Mercedes here, again, I will always be looking for that phone call, for that hit up on Facebook. Mommy, what happened? She says it will be years till then, but it's been years already, and she'll survive as long as she has Amaya, which ends up to be the last child that she had that did not get taken away from her. I'm waiting for it, she says. I got time. Cameron, that's 8 more years till he's 18. Leslie is what, 9 more years? Tiana is 6 now, so I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it. So Mercedes' story ends. She's kind of hopeful that she'll be able to get reacquainted with her children. All right, so what you're doing is reading that, you're making notes, and you're putting your thoughts together so that you can answer this journal. So the journal, just click on it. It's the little piece of paper with the pen on it. You see to the side there. Click on it, and when it opens up, you will see the writing prompt for the journal. All right, so you're going to write right here in this journal. How you do it? First of all, let's look at the question. Read, when do you take a child from his parents, and answer this question in a complete paragraph. You're going to have some information about complete paragraphs in the assignment for this week, the readings and the presentations. And we want to have a topic sentence, and we want to give supporting details to make a complete paragraph. So what are some writing choices that the author uses to make her point in the essay? Reveal in your topic sentence what the point is, and identify the author by name and the title of the essay as well. So you would start with something like Larissa McFarquhar in her essay, When Should a Child Be Taken from His Parents, in quotation marks, because we already talked about the quotation marks for the title, uses several or makes several choices in order to make her point that the decision to take a child from his parents is a very complex one. And then your supporting details would be those things that you've noted. So try to write this in complete sentences, make it a complete paragraph. Use your transitions. One choice that she makes is, maybe you can talk about those rhetorical questions. Another choice she makes is whatever. So I'm gonna look at all these answers that I get in these journals, and we'll talk about those next week, so that you'll have your own ideas, but you'll also be able to kind of look at what some of the other folks have said that they noticed. In order to start your journal, you click this right here where it says start or edit my journal entry. The Moodle page already knows your name and everything, so I'll be able to tell what is written here. You do not have to worry about setting this up in MLA format, because you can't in this journal, but you'll have a little box that comes up right here. You just move your cursor there and you start typing your paragraph. Start with your topic sentence and then give your support of the things that you noticed that the writer chose to make in order to get her point across. So when you get finished, click Save Changes. When you do that, I'll be able to see your journal. If you want to go back and work on it, you certainly may. But if you remember when we first clicked on, let's see if I can get it to go back to that page. When you get ready to start your journal, it says start or edit my journal entry, and it has out here to the side, you have not started this journal yet. When you do save it, you can still go back and click on this edit my journal entry, and it'll take you back to it so you can continue to work on it. So you can continue to change it as much as you need to before we get to the deadline. Okay, so 2 things this week: take the quiz, answer the journal. I took a little bit longer with the video this week, but I think it was important to go over some of the stuff in the reading with you to help you understand what it is we're actually looking for as we read this. So that's it for this week, and I will see you next time.